firstly, if you're trying to explore different HTML tags and what they mean, Google is your best friend. So for example, if I want to know what the P tag is, I can search P tag HTML, and what I get is some results. I also get a result from this website that I was showing you before, MDN, which is the best place to go to for information about all things web if you want a sort of like a proper description of what these things are. So this has a description of what the paragraph tag is doing and what it's for, some examples, and it does this for basically everything, and it's really quite useful. You can also search in the website itself, but I find Google to give better results for this. Okay, so you can use that to explore those different tags that I was talking about. All right, moving on. As I said before, one of the most fundamental pieces of the web was this idea that it was a web of interconnected documents, that you could jump from one website to another. And to do that, we need a way of doing that. And we create links. And now links in HTML are very unhelpfully named anchor elements. So that's what A is for. And so an A element is something used to link to another website, web page. And we use these things called attributes to describe which web page you want to go to. So attributes are a way of assigning more data than just the text it contains with an element. So for example, we have this attribute called href, something else that is unhelpfully named, but in this case, href means where you want to go. So we use this equals sign, wrap the value in quotes, and put where we want to go. So in this case, it's google.com, and we still put the text in as usual. In this case, we want to say where we're going, so that's Google. So how about I fill out those web design resources that I promised before? So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go to, there are a few websites I want to show off on my website. So I think MDN is one of them, so I'll leave that there. Figma is another such website. This is linked in your notes. Figma is cool. Actually, I'll just go to /home. Figma is a collaborative design tool. So if you want to create really fine-grained web design, Figma is a great free tool to use. And it's kind of like Google Docs in that multiple people can edit the same design at the same time. Another website I want to link to is awwwards.com. I'm not actually sure how you're supposed to pronounce this. But this is a list of beautiful and inspiring websites that push the boundaries of web design and what the web can do. So if you're ever looking for crazy, far-fetched inspiration, this is a good place to go. So these are the websites I want to link to. I'm going to start with developer.mozilla.org. So I'm going to create a new paragraph tag. I'm going to fill it with these A elements. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an I'm going to create an anchor element for developer.mozilla.org. Then I'm going to create one for Figma. And then I'm going to create one for that awards website. 3 W's. See, it's a bit long, isn't it? I'll just make that inspiration. Save. Go to the page, and where are we? Hit refresh. So we've got a bunch of links here. They are highlighted and underlined as links by default are, as we'd expect them to be, and clicking on them goes where I told them to go. So that's all working very well. Now, a point worth noting is this little snippet at the beginning of each URL, this https : is important. The notes explain what what it means to have this and what it means to not have this. But if I don't include this, what we call the protocol, and I try and link to this, it's going to break in unexpected ways. Basically, what you're saying is I'm linking to a different website, not the same website. Sometimes you might see that as HTTP, not HTTPS, but always include it when you're trying to link to a different website. But what it lets you do without it is actually link to different pages on your website if you don't include it. And there'll be a challenge in the next task section to try and create multiple pages for your website to demonstrate this behavior. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so those are links. Those are great. Now, another thing I wanted to do in my website was have that big hero section, that big box, and I wanted to have an image background. So I want to put images in my website. Now, how exactly do we do that? So images are a little more helpfully named IMG, standing for image, and it has a bunch of attributes, but two that you want to use, this SRC, meaning source, which helps point to an image. I'll explain how we do that in a moment, and also this alt attribute, which is a description of the image in text. Now, this is helpful for things like source engines, search engines, or visually impaired users who have a hard time telling what's inside an image. So a textual description would be very, very useful for them. So that's how you make images, but the harder part actually is finding images to put on your website, because sourcing or creating high-quality, useful images isn't an easy thing to do. And unfortunately, you can't go to Google Images and just pick the first image that you see that you like, because there are copyright restrictions on that, and you probably aren't allowed to do that. Now, fortunately, there are websites that contain images that are entirely free for you to use. You don't have to add any credit. You can if you want to, but you don't have to worry about the legal ramifications of using them. So this website here I'm looking at right now is called pexels.com. That is P-E-X-E-L-S, and it has a whole bunch of free photos. So I want a photo of a laptop on a desk that I can put text over. That's my ultimate dream. So I'm going to search for laptop. And I'll get a bunch of results. I kind of like the look of this one, so I'm going to click on that. And then I get an option to download it. Now, if you click through here, you'll notice that there are some options for different sizes. Images are a pretty big contributor to file size on websites, and you want to keep that size as low as possible to keep your load times nice and fast and to stop wasting people's internet. So downloading the full size of an image on these stock photo sites is usually a bit extreme. So I'm going to opt for this medium size, which is 1280 by 768. It's kind of there's not really an exact science to it as to which size is correct, but I'm going to pick that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this download button. Now, this image is currently sitting inside my downloads folder, and I can't use it usefully there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to my downloads folder, and I've got two of them. I'm going to grab that file. I'm going to copy it, and then head over to the same folder that I have my index.html in. Remember, I said earlier that we're going to have multiple files to represent our website, and images are just one of them. So I'm going to put the image in there, and then I'm going to give it a useful name, such as desk, because it's an image of a desk. So it's very, very important that you put your images in the same folder as your website. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is create that image element and point towards that desk image. So for the time being, I'm just going to put an image before my heading. In my dream world, they'll be on top of each other, but we can't do that just yet. So I'm going to create an IMG element, and then I'm going to use that source attribute. Now, what we want to do is point towards a URL to the image. Now, in this case, we don't want the HTTPS. We want something that is what we say relative to the file that we're currently on. Now, because index.html and disk.jpg are in the same file, I can just write disk.jpg, so in the same folder. And that's why we wanted to put them in the same folder. And I want to give it a useful alt description. I'm going to call it a desk. So I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to try and go to my website and refresh. And what we'll see is a nice, massive image sitting right there. So that worked. And we'll go over how to make images not massive, because this is overwhelming the text a little bit. But for the time being, this is a good start. So that's how images work. Now that we've done images, what's the next step? What's better than images? Well, video. And sorry, I forgot an important point. These image tags are self-closing, which means there is no different opening and closing tag. They're all bunched into one. That's because it doesn't make sense for images to have content inside them. So don't write a separate opening and closing tag, write it all as one. Sorry about forgetting that. Anyway, what's better than images is video. And you might ask me, is there a video tag? And my short answer to that is yes. But like images, videos are hard to create or come by that are high quality, and are even harder to host on your own website than images are, because they're massive in terms of file size. So what we want to do is leverage all the hard work that somebody else has put into hosting videos. Unfortunately, there are such websites, YouTube being a very popular example. So here I am on youtube.com, and I want to pick a video to embed into my website. Now, I want something that's kind of inspirational for people to watch, not necessarily about web design, so I want them to look at something pretty. And fractals sound like a better thing than any. So I'm going to open up this video and watch this fractal fest. It's 4 hours of it, and it's pretty intense. Okay, so this is the image that I'm going to include. Hopefully users don't spend 4 hours watching it on my website. And the embed feature is a little bit buried. I have to click share, then I have to click embed down here, and then, hey, what we see here is something that looks awfully familiar. This is a snippet of HTML code that we can just put it on our website, in theory. So I'm going to copy that HTML code, and then I'm going to put it in my website. Now I want it to be directly below the heading, so I'm going to put it there. It's a whole bunch of nonsense. It's a tag we've never seen before. This iframe tag doesn't matter. YouTube told us to do it, so we'll do it. So I'm going to save that, and I will then refresh the page, and just like that, we've got a YouTube video embedded on our website. That was really easy. And it turns out a lot of websites have such functionality that make it really easy to embed content. YouTube is just one of them. For example, you can embed tweets from Twitter very, very easily into a website in a very similar fashion. So the next thing I want to show you is another kind of tag. Now, we were looking at this body tag here, and everything inside it is the things that the user can see on the web page. There's stuff that we want to describe that isn't necessarily stuff that's on the web page. Here's an example. Up here, what we'll see is there's this index.html up here on this tab. But all these other tabs, they have nice descriptive names like Fractal Fest or MDN Web Docs or Introduction to Web Development. Why don't we have such a nice description in our tab? That's because there's another HTML element that describes this, and it goes above the body, and it's called head. You put your head on top of your body. That's a useful name. And inside your head, you can describe things that the user doesn't see. For example, the title of your web page. So I can create a title tag, and I can put in here web design tips. And then when I refresh the page, what we'll see up here is now web design tips instead of index.html. And you can set that to anything. You can even put emoji in there, but word to the wise, it's quite difficult. Well, it's not quite difficult. There are some tricks you need to get around to put emoji in there. But you can put any text in there. So with that, I'll leave you with a bunch of extra tasks. Firstly, going over the myriad of things we've just done, try adding links to your website with this anchor tag. As a challenge, you can try creating multiple pages. So create a second page, call it something other than index.html, maybe page2.html or about.html, and try and link between the two. Make it so you can click on a link on one and take to the other. Ask a demonstrator if you need help on that one. Try adding some images. Pixels.com is a good source of images, but if you have some photos that you want to include, by all means include them. You can use original content. Try embedding a video related to your website in some way. And then as another challenge, try embedding some other kind of media from a different website. For example, a tweet from Twitter, maybe a tweet that you've made around this, the content of your website, or even a Facebook like button so people can express the like for your page. And finally, try giving your website a useful title using these head and title tags. All right, let's take a breather and work through these. Okay, so that's all I have to say about HTML today. What we've done is we've created a web page full of some information. We've embedded some bits and pieces. We've added links, and we've equipped you with some tools to go ahead and try and figure out how to do more things with HTML. And what we've got in front of us is a rather ugly-looking web page. So next time, I promise, we'll be focusing on making things look better. So we've just done displaying information. Next time, we're going to look at styling that information and making it look like something that would actually be proud to present to users.